So the next destination in Rapture is Fort Frolic. While on his way to Hephaestus to confront Andrew Ryan, the player is met with an unexpected twist with a journey into the strange and fateful world of Sander Cohen. This level is quite unique in Rapture, as it represents a kind of respite from the madness of Rapture, introducing an insanity of a different sort. So when I say it's a respite, it's removed from the Civil War, at least. And you're entering a world that's really cut off from the rest of Rapture. And it's really a very strange place, right? After all, Fort Frolic was created as the entertainment capital of Rapture. And even more than that, Fort Frolic is cut off from the rest of Rapture completely, as the bathysphere disappears right before Jack's eyes when he's trying to make his way to Hephaestus. Also, Sander Cohen has cut off all radio communications to the outside world. In this way, Fort Frolic is sort of like a purgatory, and Sander Cohen is its overlord, or its deity, who has taken his art to its most extreme places. Similar to Dr. Steinman in the medical pavilion, the player gets a glimpse into a world where art has become completely unrestrained to the point of just insane dogma. A religion of pure madness, with Cohen at the pulpit. All of the greatest minds of Rapture bring their own version of ultimate truth with them. Remember, we're talking about belief here. Ryan, Fontaine, Steinman, Cohen, they're all bringing their own vision for the world to Rapture. Unlike Dr. Steinman, however, Cohen acknowledges the failings of both Ryan and Fontaine and rejects them outright in favor of his own vision or his own version of what he thinks ultimate truth is, or at least what it is to him. A vision of the world and of life as a tragic drama of inescapable fate. In some ways, Cohen's vision seems the most sane and closest to man's true nature, and at the very same time, his vision may be regarded as the most insane of them all. Here's where things get really interesting. Sander Cohen manages to take the whole idea or all-encompassing message of Bioshock, and he just turns it on its head, at least for a little while, at least for the time that we're in Fort Frolic. However, there really is no escaping the primary message or the underlying theme behind Bioshock. The level of Fort Frolic is rather an intermission between levels, rather than it being an integral part of the plot. The role of Fort Frolic in the story is to provide a big clue to the main message of Bioshock. It does this by taking what the player has been presented with so far through the rhetoric of Ryan and Fontaine, and then it takes a big step back from all of that. And instead, it presents us with Cohen's own vision while simultaneously providing us with an insightful, artistic mirror held up to the light of Fontaine's manipulation of Jack, as well as Ryan's tireless overtures. The genius of Bioshock shines once again as we realize that the intermission has actually been turned into the performance. So this is another example of Bioshock taking these story elements and just turning things completely on their head, where the audience in this case becomes the lead actor, of course, right? We're expecting that Sander Cohen is the performer, but no, Jack is now the lead actor, with Sander Cohen, of course, pulling the strings, or at least so he thinks he is. I can think of another character that does a fantastic job holding up a mirror to the protagonist. Can you think of another story like this that turns all assumptions on their face in a very similar way? the Joker with a little Salvador Dali mixed in. The Joker is such a great character, and he holds a mirror up to Batman, and Batman doesn't want to look at it. And in a very similar way, Cohen has this sort of crazy wisdom, right? He has this sort of very, very strange way about him, but at the same time, there's a deep wisdom to it. And while most of us are familiar with the significance of the Patrick and Moira poster found in Fort Frolic as a reference to Fontaine's fictional wife and child supposedly killed in Smuggler's Hideout, this poster has a hidden meaning which many are not aware of. But let's start with St. Patrick. This is the most famous Patrick, of course, and he is from the St. Patrick of Ireland from the 5th century AD. The name Patrick means nobleman and did not come into wide use until after the 17th century because it was considered sacred. However, the real significance here is that St. Patrick, originally named Sukkot, was taken away from his home as a slave by Irish pirates, sound familiar? Where he lived as a herder for 6 years, after which time he escaped and returned home. He is best known for bringing Christianity to Ireland, leading the snakes or pagan religions out of the Emerald Isles. It's so interesting because here you have these Irish characters. You have, Atlas isn't a real character, of course. He was a real character, but then Fontaine impersonates him. And you have these Irish characters, and you also have these Irish characters, by the way, featured in a big way in Bioshock Infinite. And so there's something very interesting going on here. And then, of course, we have Moira, or the Moirai, otherwise known as the Three Fates in Greek mythology. Three goddesses of fate spinning the thread of man's inescapable destiny into this thread. The experiences of life and destiny, of course, are being woven. In the middle is Clotho, the maiden, who carries the spindle, and she pulls the string out from it. She represents the youth and beauty from which life pours out from. And then next to her left is Lachesis, the matron seated to the left of Clotho. She measures the string and chooses a destiny. And finally is Atropos, to Clotho's right, the crone. She cuts the string, determining when one will die. And it's interesting because Atropa is the Greek word for a deadly species of nightshade from which a deadly poison was derived. And this is also where we get the word atrophy, which means to waste away. And also in some myths, it is said that Zeus and the goddess Themis are the parents of the Fates. Although this has been disputed, since it is believed that not even the gods are above fate, Themis is a very interesting deity. Themis means divine law, referring to the inescapable laws of the universe, something which is hinted at again and again in Bioshock. It seems plausible that Themis, or divine law, should be the mother of the Fates, at least in a figurative sense. Themis literally means that which is put in place. It is from the goddess Themis that we derive the word theme. A theme, of course, being that which is put in place, or that which lends coherence to a story, or a certain uniformity of style from which all underlying elements may draw from or adhere to. Every distinctly themed level in Bioshock represents a certain divine order, separate from all others in the respect that they stand as strong symbols to the beliefs or presumed divine order, as it is imagined by each respective character or ideology in Bioshock. So if you can think of each theme or each level of the game, they in a very real sense, they reflect the ideologies of some of these characters. And you can, like Smuggler's Hideout, you can map directly to Fontaine, right? Fort Frolic is obviously mapped directly to Sander Cohen in his vision. Arcadia. And there's all of these different levels where you have a character that's actually tied directly to it, or it's their vision, right? Olympus Heights, right? Fontaine is positioned as Zeus there, and he wants to be Zeus. He wants to be the supreme leader. So this begs the question, what happens when distinctive themes or implicit orders meet up against each other? What happens when these visions or when these themes collide? And it's also worth mentioning that the symbol for Fontaine's smuggling operation seems awfully reminiscent of the esoteric order of Serbia's Black Hand. The Black Hand were a secretive order of mostly soldiers and ex-military formed for the purpose of unifying the country of Serbia. They are most famous for their association with the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria in Sarajevo in 1914. However, it is now believed that this assassination was performed by another group known as Young Bosnia. Regardless of this, I just can't help but make this comparison. Fictional elements like these are almost always inspired by the real world.